Hello and welcome to Nithrania YouTube channel. You're watching another episode from the Game in a Nutshell series designed for explaining the board game rules. My name is Branislav Berec, and in this video we're going to learn how to play Hippocrates from Alan Orban, and the game is published by Game Brewer. Place the game board in the middle of the table, showing this symbol at the top of the building. The other side of the game board is intended for expansions. Sort these doctor tiles by their color, which is the color of their region, and shuffle each stack separately, and place these stacks face down in this exact order on these designated spaces on the game board. Then draw one doctor tile from each stack, and randomly place one doctor face up in each of these four region-free doctor spaces on the game board. Place the two remaining doctors nearby as the extra stack. You may need it later in the game. Then separate the patient tiles by their color and shuffle each stack separately, and either place those stacks somewhere below the game board, or to save some space I like to place them over here. Place them in this exact order, which matches the order of the doctor tiles. Then fill each column with the patient tiles from the corresponding stack by drawing the top three tiles from the stack and placing them face up. Shuffle the medicine kit tiles and place a stack of 4 tiles on each of these 6 spaces on the game board. You can return the remaining 6 tiles back to the box. Then flip the top tile of each stack face up. Do the exact same procedure with these knowledge tiles. So you will have 6 stacks of 4 tiles, return the remaining tiles back to the box, and reveal the top tile of each stack face up. Then each player chooses a color and takes all the components of that color, which is a player board, basic doctor, victory point marker, reputation marker, and the welcome track marker, option token, and these 3 assistant tokens. You can choose one of those tokens and place it on your player board, and it's now ready for use. Also take 6 coins and 1 medicine vial of each type. All the victory point markers are placed on the 0 space of the scoring track. Then randomly place all the welcome markers in this top row of the welcome track, and you always place all the welcome markers. If you have less than 4 players in the game, let's say here we have a 3-player game, place all the non-player markers in a random order after those player markers. So in a 2-player game, the welcome markers in the first and second position would be the player's markers. Markers in the third and fourth position would be the non-player markers. Then in this welcome track player order, so yellow, red and blue, stack the reputation markers on this starting space of the reputation track. So yellow, red and then blue. Then since we have a 3-player game, the non-player marker will be placed on this space. In a 2-player game, those 2 non-player markers will be placed on these spaces, and in a solo game on these 2 spaces, and the third one will be over here. This is called the reputation track order. The player further to the right is further ahead on the track, and if there's more than 1 player in the same space, the player on the top is considered to be further ahead. The game is played over 4 rounds, and each round has 5 phases. The first phase is called the Welcome Patients phase. In this phase, players will gain new patients. The second phase is the Payment phase, in which players will pay for all their doctors. The third phase is called the Recruitment phase, in which players can recruit new doctors, or buy new medicine, or do both. If you do, you also take the knowledge tile as a bonus. The fourth phase is the Treatment phase, in which you will have your doctors use the medicine to heal your patients. Then the fifth phase is called the Score phase, in which you will score for all the healed patients and all the doctors that fulfilled all their contracts. The game ends at the end of round 4. The number of rounds still remaining is easily tracked by the number of tiles in these stacks. Each round, one of those tiles will be removed from the game. So at the end of round 4, there will be no tiles, no knowledge tiles, medicine tiles or doctor tiles on the game board. There's no final scoring at the end of the game, simply the player with the most points is the winner. and you gain points for each patient you heal and for each doctor who fulfilled all their contracts. On the other hand, if you have any patients in this Hall of Hades area, so all the patients you have not healed over the course of the game, you would lose 3 victory points for each of those. The first phase of the game is the Welcome Patients phase, and it has 2 steps. In the first one you will gain new patients, and in the second step you will collect the offerings from those patients. In the first step, which is again called Welcome Patients, you will repeat the following procedure 3 times. First, you will roll these dice and assign those dice to the corresponding columns, and then each player will have 1 turn. Then again you will roll the dice, then each player will take another turn, and then you will repeat it for the 3rd time. So here's how you do it in detail. First, roll these dice. Then place the die to the corresponding column on the space with the matching symbol. So here the purple die would be placed in this space, then the green die would be placed over here, and so on and so forth. Then in this player order, each player will take 1 turn. There are 2 welcome tracks, the top track and the bottom track, and on your turn you have to choose one of the empty columns, the columns which don't have any marker in this bottom row. Place your welcome marker there, and then take the patient next to the die in that column. So here it would be this patient. Place that patient tile in your examination room. Then take everything which is shown underneath that space. So here you would gain 1 point, 1 coin, and you gain 1 reputation. When you gain a reputation, move your marker 1 step to the right. If you lose the reputation, move the marker 1 step to the left. Every time you move on a space which already contains markers of other players, move your marker on top. Then remove the die from the board. Then it's the next player's turn. Again, that player must choose any empty column, move the welcome marker to that column, and take the patient which is placed next to the die. In this situation, the red player would gain 1 assistant token, 1 medicine of the green color, and they would lose 1 reputation. When you gain an assistant token, place it on your player board. Anytime during the game you can spend these tokens, and you can either take 1 medicine of the corresponding color or 2 drachmas, 2 coins. After you spend the token, place it next to your player board. The token remains unavailable until you gain that token again. When you gain the token which you already have on your player board, since you can spend it anytime, you can actually spend the token, gain a medicine or coins, and gain it immediately back. However, those assistant tokens have another function which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Then, when it comes to the non-player marker, that marker will also take some sort of a virtual turn. Look at all the empty columns, and in each column look at the number of the patient which is next to the die. It's this number underneath the name of the patient. So here we have an empty column with the patient with number 26. Here another one with the patient with number 22, and this one has number 44. The non-player marker is moved to the column with the patient with the highest number and simply discards that patient. Non-players don't get any rewards, they don't get any tokens, but they gain or lose reputation. So here the purple marker would be moved 2 spaces to the right. Then, when all players and non-players have taken their turns, move the markers in this order back to the top row, but don't refill those empty spaces. That will only be done at the end of the entire round. So start the second cycle by rolling the dice again and assigning the dice to their corresponding spaces. And again, in this welcome track player order, each player will take 1 turn. If you choose a column in which there's no patient tile next to the die, you can take the bonus or rewards from that tile, but do not gain any rewards that are shown underneath that space. That means you don't gain anything, you don't lose anything, you only take what's shown on that space. So here it will be just 3 coins. Again, remove the die from the board. The other option is to use the assistants on your player board. All of them have a specific function, but remember you can only use them if you have them available on your player board. And even if you would have more of them, you can only use one assistant per turn. So let me quickly explain how all of them work. The blue one, as indicated with these arrows, allows you to exchange dice horizontally. So let's say we have a situation like this. The yellow player chooses this column, but instead of taking the patient from this space, yellow player would like to take the patient from the second space. So with that blue assistant, you can swap that die with the die from another column. So it would go like this, and this would go to the black column. Now the yellow player can take this patient with all the bonuses and penalties from underneath that space. Again, removing the die from the game board. You may only do that with the die from your column. You may not choose to swap two dice from two different columns where you don't have your marker. The green assistant allows you to move the die vertically. So after choosing the column, the yellow player can simply move the die in that column to a different space and take the patient from that tile. Note that you may intentionally move the die to a space which doesn't contain any patient and take just the rewards from that space. And finally, with this purple assistant, instead of taking the patient from the space next to the die, you may take the patient from the top of the corresponding stack. However, in this case you still gain or lose whatever is printed underneath the space where the die is located. Then, when the non-player marker is supposed to take the turn, again choose the patient with the highest number, which is next to the die, which means you can ignore the columns when there is no patient next to the die. And in case that no column contains a patient next to the die, simply move that marker to the leftmost empty column, and with that the turn of that non-player marker is over. And one last note, later in the game, patient tiles may contain coin or coins, and if you take that tile, take all the coins located on that tile. Then at the end of the third cycle, again move all the markers to the top row of the welcome track and proceed to the next step, which is collecting the offerings. Collect all the coins from the patients you have welcomed this round, so in this example it would be 8 coins. But don't score those victory points yet, you can only score them when you heal those patients. The second phase is the payment phase, in which you have to pay your doctors, including your basic doctor. In the first round of the game you actually only have that basic doctor. Later in the game you may have more doctors or even none of them at all. So for each of those doctors, you have to pay the number of coins which corresponds to the position of your reputation marker. Here, the yellow player would only have to pay 2 coins for each doctor. However, the red player needs to pay 3 coins for each doctor. If you don't have enough money, or if you don't want to pay the money, discard each doctor that is not paid. The third phase is the recruitment phase. First of all, here we have 4 doctors in the region free spaces, and then there will be 6 doctors in the regions. Note that these regional doctors are still face down at the start of this phase. In the first step of the phase, in this reputation track order, each player will have a chance to reserve or option one of these region free doctors. Remember, if 2 or more players are on the same space, the player on top is considered to be further ahead. Again, if it's the turn of this neutral virtual player, look at the numbers of the doctors here in the top right hand corner. That non-player marker removes the doctor with the highest number. Here we have the doctor with number 16, which is simply discarded. Then, when it's the player's turn, when it's your turn, you can option one of the non-optioned or non-reserved doctors yet. To do that, you have to use your option marker. That costs 2 coins, which you have to pay to the general reserve. Then place that option token on one of the selected doctors. The next player in a player order may only choose one of those non-option doctors. If you don't want to reserve or option the doctor, you will not have a chance to hire that doctor later in the phase. Only now, when all players had a chance to option the region-free doctor, flip the regional doctors face up, only the top tile of each stack, and again, in this reputation order, each player will take one turn, and on your turn you can either hire a doctor, buy the medicine, or do both and take the knowledge tile as the bonus as well, or you can even pass. Then you can hire that optioned doctor as well. So let's take a look at the details. First, if it's the turn of the virtual player, that player again discards the doctor with the highest number, and then also this medicine kit tile and also the knowledge tile from the same column. Then on your turn, if you decide to hire the doctor, you may only hire the regional doctor, and if you do, you have to pay the price shown on the doctor tile. Then take the tile and place it somewhere into your play area. If instead you decide to choose the medicine, you pay the cost of that medicine and take all the medicines shown on the tile. Then discard the tile. Then place all the medicines into your supply. Anytime any player hires a doctor or buys a medicine, essentially that column is completely blocked. So now the red player would not be able to choose the doctor from this column because it was chosen by the yellow player previously. Similarly, if the yellow player would hire the doctor from this column, other players would not be able to buy the medicine from the same column. Then the third option is to bundle. You can hire both the doctor and buy the medicine. You have to pay the cost of both tiles, so here it would be 14 coins together. Place the doctor in your play area, take the medicine and discard the tile, and then you take the knowledge tile as the bonus. You can place those tiles in your play area, and these are one-time use tiles, and you can find the description of all these effects at the back of the rulebook. If you gain a tile with this symbol, you have to take that bonus immediately. These tiles can be used anytime later in the game. In addition to those three options, there is an option number 4, which is to pass when you don't do anything. Then, even if you pass, at the end of your turn, as the last step, you can hire the doctor you have optioned at the start of this phase. If you don't, you simply take the option marker back, but you don't get those 2 coins back. But if you hire the doctor, you have to pay the cost, which is reduced by these 2 coins. So in this case, instead of 7 coins, you would only have to pay 5 coins for this doctor. Again, place the doctor somewhere in your play area. In the last step of this recruitment phase, we have to reset this recruitment zone. First, if there are unclaimed doctors in this region-free area, slide all of them to the right, closing any gaps. And then slide all the unclaimed doctors from the regions in this direction to the region-free area. So here, this doctor would be placed to this space, this one would go over here, and now the last one would come over and push away this doctor. So everything would look like this at the end of the reset step. If instead the situation would look like this region-free doctor would be moved 1 space to the right, then these 2 regional doctors would fill 2 spaces behind that first doctor, and now we have 1 space empty. Now, remember, we have set aside 2 doctors at the start of the game, so take one of those doctors, fill in the last empty space, and proceed to the next phase. The next phase, the treatment phase, may be played in this reputation track order, or if the players are experienced enough, you can do this simultaneously. First of all, you have to match your patients with your doctors. Each patient needs certain number of medicines of a certain type, and also each doctor can only administer certain types of medicines. If you attach the patient to the doctor like this, which means that both green and purple medicines can be administered by one doctor, you are not allowed to attach that patient to another doctor which can administer the same type of the medicine. In this example, this doctor can administer all the medicines that this patient needs. However, you can do something like this. In this case, this doctor can administer the green medicine and this one can administer the purple medicine. At the same time, you can attach another patient to this doctor because that patient needs the medicine which is shown over here. As you can see, you may orient the doctors and patients any way you want, but once they are attached together, you may not change their orientation. In other words, these links are then permanent. However, you can only attach patients to doctors if you can fully heal those patients in one go, so you can provide all the medicine for that patient. For that purpose, you will need the medicine from your supply, and for convenience, you can place those medicine vials on the patients. And if you don't have all the medicines, you can buy one medicine vial each for 3 coins, and you can sell the medicine vials each one for 2 coins. So in this example, I can sell this one for 2 coins, then add the 3rd coin. I can buy one additional, let's say this one, so I have all the medicines required for this patient to be fully healed. As indicated over here, if you have an unspent knowledge tile, you can turn that knowledge tile into one medicine vial of your choice. Then you have to discard that knowledge tile. And don't forget that you can also use the assistants, and for each one you can either gain 2 coins or 1 vial of the corresponding color. So if you can fully heal a patient, attach that patient to a doctor or doctors. Patients that are not fully healed are moved to the emergency room. If they would be in the emergency room at the start of the phase, they would now move to the Hall of Hades. Then for each patient that is fully healed, discard all the medicine vials to the general supply, score the victory points shown on that patient tile, and then flip that patient face down. As I said, these links are permanent. That link indicates that this doctor fulfilled this contract. If later in the game the doctor heals additional patients and fulfills all the contracts on the tile, again after scoring the victory points from those patients and flipping them face down, if that doctor fulfilled all the contracts, score the victory points for that doctor as well. And that doctor retires, which means you discard the tile together with all the patients which are face down, which are now not attached to any other doctor. Don't discard these patients because they indicate that this doctor fulfilled these 2 contracts already. However, now these 2 groups are not attached together. So let's say you would get another patient like this which requires blue and purple medicine. And we have the blue medicine here and purple medicine here. You can reorganize them and attach both of them to that patient and heal that patient. There's one small exception. If your starting doctor retires, you may intentionally not let him retire. You can score the victory points and place that doctor back into your play area again. And finally, the last step of the phase is the cleanup step. First, discard all the leftover knowledge tiles and the medicine kits, and then flip all the top tiles from each stack face up, but that doesn't apply to the regional doctors, keep them face down. Shift all the patients in each column up, filling the gaps, and then each patient gains 1 coin, which is a bribe that patient is willing to pay in the next round to get to the hospital. Then fill the remaining empty spaces with the new tiles from the stacks. And that's the end of the round. You can now proceed to the next round. The game ends at the end of round 4. Before looking at the final score, you have a last chance to treat all the patients in your emergency room if you have the required medicine. You don't need any doctors to do that. However, even when you do, you don't score any victory points for those patients. If you don't have all the required medicine and you're not able to buy it, move that patient to the Hall of Hades. Now, you lose 3 victory points for each patient in the Hall of Hades, and then the player with the most victory points is the winner. In case of a tie, The player higher on the reputation track wins that tie. So that's how you play Hippocrates. If you have any questions or comments, please put them into the comment sections below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. If you like the series, please subscribe. You can even support the channel on the Patreon page. My name is Branislav Berec. You've been watching Game in a Nutshell and hope to see you next time. I would like to thank everyone who has ever supported the channel, and especially the current supporters listed on this page. If you too would like to support the channel in creation of videos like this and other video tutorials and other content on this channel, please visit the patreon.com/Nithrania.